Well, welcome everyone. Welcome our guests online, our guests listening on the various podcast platforms. Really delighted again to be here on this new episode of Roots, Routes, and Real Talk, where we talk about people's roots, the routes they've taken, and real talk about, the vibes that get us to be the personal and professional beings that we are. And today we're delighted to have a very special guest who will be here with Hewan and I, my co-host. And our special guest today is none other than Belinda Brown. I mean, Belinda, we feel like we're such fanboys, fangirls of you. Like, we've been looking out for you. We've tried to really get you onto the podcast because we think you can bring something really special.
We're going to find out.
No
Oh,
pressure.
yeah. Guaranteed. Absolutely.
Indeed. And I think when we're thinking about our podcast and the kind of guests that we have here, and I think there's something about people bringing not only what they've achieved, and I feel like we meet lots of high achieving people, but what really struck me when I first met you was just the authenticity, the life that you have in you. And I thought that's such a special gift.
Thank you.
Felt like it's really important to me to force you to really bring out that gift and give it to others. And that's why we have you on the podcast. And Hewan as well, I know you've been looking forward to Belinda coming forward. So any words, anything to say before we have Belinda introduce herself and say a bit about herself?
Absolutely. So for our audience, Belinda is actually one of the finalists for the Black British Business Awards as a senior leader. And so that means that the caliber is high just to be a finalist there. So I was like, yes, Black excellence. And I get to meet her. So I was super excited. And especially the small meeting we had just to get introduced, I just left that meeting full of chill and very emotional and very, very eager for the world to hear your story. But then I can't wait to get started. Shall we?
Yeah, indeed. And just so you know, Hewan and I have been competing about who's a better friend to you than the other. Like, there is
Who's brought
competition.
the chocolates?
I know.
That's who wins.
It's about who knows Belinda better.
You
like,
might win that.
So there's a small competition going on here to see it. And with that introduction, just say a little bit about yourself. I know we're going to be exploring your roots, your routes, and everything else, but we'd love to hear that. And that's usually the first part of our conversation, to hear not only about yourself, but also like hear the Belinda behind the Belinda.
So Belinda Brown, I use she, her pronouns, and I have a interesting background. So I was born in Jamaica, but moved to Northern Ireland when I was 3, and actually was born out of wedlock, which, coming from a Catholic background, was interesting. So my mum brought myself and my brother over from Northern Ireland when we were wee. So you can imagine growing up, 2 brown babies, born out of wedlock, in a Catholic family, with accents. And the reason I say that is because I often start by explaining that I'm an immigrant, and that will evoke certain responses, but it's an important part of who I am. And so I grew up in Northern Ireland, working class, single parent household for a lot of it. So know what it's like to navigate different cultural, social ecosystems, and know what it's like to not always feel like you belong in a space, but also very cognizant that those experiences really have made me who I am, and they're a real unique part of me. And I think I sometimes explain to my son that it's my superpower, because I think I can connect with many different people in many different ways because of my own lived experience. And so that would be the other thing that I would say that's a very important part of me. I have a little boy, he's 8, he is my sunshine, my brown boy joy, I call him. And he's not just my why, he is my grounding force. He has taught me motherhood has taught me so much about my identity, actually, about the things that really matter to me and the impact that I want to be leaving in the world, and actually really shaped my leadership as well, in terms of bringing empathy and different perspectives and sharper prioritization to my leadership. The other thing that I would say, and I wasn't sure whether I was going to say this, but I'm going to say it.
Yeah. Go ahead. This is the place.
But another really important facet of my identity is I'm divorced. I went through a divorce a number of years ago, and there initially it was there's stigma attached to that, and what does it mean as a Black woman being divorced and being a single mom. But actually, it was a defining moment for me. I had to literally rebuild my life personally, and all while going through COVID, all while still trying to show up as the best mom, and all while trying to progress in my leadership. And I'm very proud of myself actually for how my ex and I show up for our son. It wasn't always easy, but we never argue about, his values. And I think that's the other thing, looking back, every experience has taught me something, and it's given me courage. I choose courage over comfort every time.
Wow. Wow, that's
Whoa.
really powerful, like really fascinating. And I love how you've used all those experiences. You've used all those, as you've said, quote unquote, tags. Some of them that could be sometimes in this day and age in particular spaces could be seen as negative.
Yeah.
Being an immigrant, being, as you're saying, like being the child of a very young mother going through your marital experience. And you've talked about how it's all a superpower. Can you share a little bit more around how you actually do that beyond just embracing it as courage? Because saying it is one thing, and we all believe like we can do it, but how have you actually done it and done it well? And also, have there been places where it's actually not worked out? Because it seems very strong and polished, but there must be quite a lot behind the scenes.
Yeah, there's always. So, we talked about this. My sister passed away 2 Christmases ago. In fact, today is her 2-year anniversary.
May she rest in peace.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And that was like a life reset for me.
Yeah.
In terms of what I want to be doing with my life and why, and how important are some of these societal measures of success. So I think grief made me realize how important and how fragile time is. And actually, you need to define success for yourself. So we all use that expression, you only live once. Well, I tell my son, you only die once, you live every day. So every day, what is it that you want to be doing and leaving? You only die once, you live every day. And every day you wake up, you have a choice. You have a choice how to live it and how to connect with people. And I think that is beautiful. And we probably get so wrapped up in the busyness and the rat race and the titles and the prestige and the status that we forget how blessed we are every morning when we just wake up. So that has been defining for me. I think the other thing is learning to lean into your purpose. So first of all, defining what your personal purpose is.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people actually sit down and go, what is unique about me and what do I bring to the world and how can I get the best back from the world? And so I actually physically do an exercise every year where I write down what my purpose is and what it is that I want to bring to the world, both in leadership, but also personally, because you as a person evolve over time. And so your purpose should evolve over time because you're constantly growing and learning. And I think one of the things that has always struck me is that success without alignment is very expensive. Oof. It's expensive for your mental health and your emotional well-being and actually how you show up to your family and your friends and your community every single day. My earlier definition of success was the titles and the qualifications because that's all I knew. And for me, it was almost like a validation, external validation of my capabilities. But actually, when you strip away the titles, who are you? Who are you? And what do you want to give to the world?
And that's so hard in this day and age. And I remember when you first mentioned that to me and you said, we always go into conversations with, hi, I'm Serufusa and I'm the chief of staff, this. Hi, I'm Belinda and I'm this and that. Hi, I'm Hewan and I'm this and that. And when you talk to me, I tried an exercise where for the next following week, I tried to introduce myself without using my job title.
And it's hard.
It's so hard.
Because people, it's one of the first things that people ask you, what's your name and what do you do?
Yeah, because people want to place you also as well. It's an excellent placement. And so since then, I keep on introducing myself and saying, I'm Serufusa and my purpose is to make your life as easy as possible.
So,
And
Belinda, what is
that's-
your purpose in
yeah.
life? What have you found it to be?
So I explain it as being a leader that people choose to follow. Because again, going back to everybody has a choice every day how you're going to live your life. And every day I try to leave behind something positive, and it can be, it's going to sound a bit naff, like buying someone a coffee, or just giving a smile to someone, or a mom and her kid are in the supermarket and the kid's freaking out, and you just go, just give her the look, because it's moments of gratitude, I think, that remind us why we're here. It's I think that's it.
Cool.
That is such a wonderful way to tell us where you've arrived now. And I was wondering, you've went to so many hardships. How did you stay resilient throughout your journey? From being an immigrant to where you got here, the different steps you had to take, being on scholarship. How do you remain resilient? Because it's great to arrive at this moment, but I think people just lose their way as things get difficult.
Yeah, I think for me it just wasn't optional. Resilience was just not an option. It was just life. So I explained that I grew up in Northern Ireland. I went to Queen's University, which is an amazing university celebrating 180 years. I
don't know where you are, but go
in Belfast. It's an incredible university. It's actually one of the top 2. It's just made it into the top 200 in the world. It's amazing
Wow.
university. Education was always kind of positioned to me as a route to success, but it wasn't always guaranteed. It's something I had to actively earn and pursue and protect. And I was the recipient of financial aid throughout my university years. So I have a master's in finance and a BSc in finance. And for 3 of the 4 years of my undergrad, I received a bursary, which was called the Hardship Fund. And then I won a scholarship for my master's. And actually, I was speaking on a panel last week for the university, and I was describing how even the title of the fund, the Hardship Fund, it was such a heavy word, and there was so much stigma, particularly if you're from a particular class or background. You come with pride, right? And there's almost this, we don't accept charity. There's always someone worse off than you. We always heard that, at least you have a roof over your head.
Yeah.
There's always someone worse off than you. And so, there were days was I'm not even sure I can see this through. And I was describing last week that a lecturer, a very astute lecturer, took me aside and said, Belinda, this isn't charity. This is an investment in your future self. And that changed everything for me, because it gave me belief, and belief brings change and confidence. Seeing it as an investment in myself, when he said that to me, I was like, I cannot squander this either. I'm not going to squander this. I'm going to work hard, because this is an investment, and I got to make sure that the ROI is good. And I would say the other thing that financial aid gave me was access. So when you're not having to worry about putting food on the table or paying your rent, I could go to networking events. I could go to lectures. I could go to, the Big 4 training things. And that gives you a different type of currency. It gives you social and cultural capital, which arguably, when you come from a background like mine, is more important than just the financial aid, because suddenly you hear the language that people are using, you see how they're dressing. For the first time ever, I went to the theatre at age 22, and I was able to talk about my theatre experiences, and those things you think that they shouldn't arguably matter, but they do, because you're connecting with human beings, and people resonate with people who are like them and who have shared experiences. So I would say that's the other thing that's really important about financial aid, is that it also gives you a different type of currency to move through life. And Queen's for me was the first place where I truly felt I had something to offer, rather than being reminded of all the things that I was lacking in. It was transformative for me, that education. One of the other things that I had was a year out, a placement year, and I did that in London. So again, moving to a city by myself, having to just make it work. getting on the tube, like in Northern Ireland, public transport just didn't work very well. So we were always walking or cycled everywhere. So I was like, what is this? What are all these lines? Oh my goodness. But that also builds and shapes you in a different way as well. And then I entered the corporate world and
Yeah.
I'm going to say
Truth is coming out.
I know what it feels like to navigate spaces that are not built for people who look like you or come from your backgrounds. And it is tiring and it is hard and it's draining and you're questioning yourself
every single minute.
And sometimes I would walk into a room and I would be the only person of color, the only woman, the only person who didn't go to Oxford or Cambridge, the only person with an accent. And sometimes I would walk into a room and be the first, So when I got promoted to director level, I was, I think, one of the first women to have got promoted just after coming back from maternity leave and working flexibly. And those, that can be a lot, like, because people are looking up to you and aspiring to you, but it's also a responsibility because you feel like actually you want to break the mold because you want to be the person that you needed to see when you were younger. But yeah, it can be heavy too, And then just navigating as a mom as well. There was stigma around that as well. I went back to work fairly soon. I say fairly soon, but mothers have babies, but parents raise children. So I went back to work when my son was 7 months old and his dad took paternity leave.
Yeah.
Family leave, which was quite rare at the time. I know it's more common now, but that raised a lot of eyebrows in terms of, oh my goodness, how could you leave your son behind? And I'm like, I'm leaving him with his dad? I just haven't left him in the corner. I was like,
he signed up
for his dad. He's with his daddy. Like, he's all right. And again, that sort of stuff has also shaped my leadership in terms of if you're going to say something, role model it. If it's important to you, do it. And they have an amazing relationship because of it. And actually, it allowed me to come back to work and not worry about him. And that's really important. And I think, family leave is really important in terms of an offering, not just for women, but also for dads as well. And I literally just got up and went to work and was like, you figure it out. But he dropped a nap, he helped with weaning, and I was traveling. At the time, I was traveling a week a month.
What, were you in Big Four, one of those?
No, I was at Diageo at the time. Yeah, in global audit risk.
Yeah, oh, that's big.
Director, for Europe and Africa. So I was away a week a month, and that experience, just knowing that he was with his dad and I could go away and just be me. But I was judged. I was judged coming back to work early. But what I would say for me is that motherhood did not dilute my ambition. It just refined it. So I came back to work in 4 days and I did my full working week in 4 days. And then I had my Friday with my son. And then we had weekends as a family. And then there would be the week that I was traveling. And that's an important part of my identity too, like being the best mom, but doing it in a way that fits how I want to also come across professionally. And motherhood and ambition don't need to be mutually exclusive. They can coexist in harmony. You just got to find what works for you and for your family. And that looks different for everyone.
Yeah. And I love it. Like the story of social mobility, feeling out of place every single time and having to justify why you're here. How, like, I so relate to that as well. I mean, I come from Ethiopia, so Fusa comes from Uganda, Kenya. So it's maybe not like social mobility within the same country, but it's like social mobility from another country. And then within the places where people feel so comfortable and you're out of place every single time. And then your story of now being judged as a mother who's coming back too early, like it just never stops, right? This eye of the other, like trying to doubt you, to find faults. And I feel that as Black women, especially, we get extra analyzed. Do you feel that?
Yeah, I say often that we're both hyper visible and invisible at the same time. Yeah. And dealing with that juxtaposition is crazy, So you're overlooked for promotions and opportunities, but then the second you make a mistake, it's all over the place, and now you're representing all Black women. So yeah, that can be an emotional burden to carry, I think. And I love what you said about social mobility, because I actually don't think companies have cracked that yet. And it's going to be really difficult because your gender and your race are visible mostly. People from lower socioeconomic backgrounds who have been socially mobile, in my experience, go to great odds to hide that, right? I hide that I was on free school meals and I had a bus pass, because there's certain biases and judgment attached to that. So you go out of your way to actively, I guess, social camouflage.
Yeah, social camouflage.
Wow.
And therefore, it's going to be harder to crack because, again, coming back to the pride thing as well, if you're not open about it, then how can someone help you? How can you seek the right help? So that's why I find it very important to be open with my own background and experience, because it's just a part of you, but it's not who you are. And I think your story doesn't have to start perfectly for it to evolve powerfully. And we need to be having these difficult conversations and realizing that people need different levels of support. So an example I would give is that throughout my corporate career, I only had white coaches, and I was very fortunate to have black coaches. But there were just certain things that I could not speak to them about because they would not get it. They just wouldn't. They would just not understand it, or they would try to rationalize it. You explain something like, yeah, but maybe you're overthinking it. So I would just not resonate. I just couldn't talk about what it is like as a mixed race woman in the workforce. And I'm very fortunate. Karen Blackett was a mentor, started off as a mentor of mine, and now is an amazing friend. And her support coach, her life coach, Adrian Green, so shout out Adrian and Karen, she connected me with him. And I've been working with him now for 3-4 years, and it is game-changing.
Wow.
Like, absolutely game-changing. And I never have to over-explain.
No.
It's just, he gets it. And he understands it, and he gives me the tools to work with it. And sometimes it is in your own head, right? But mostly it's not. And just
Not
It's
having 5% of that.
But even just having that reality check when he's like, yo, you're just overthinking that one, Belinda Brown. And knowing that I can trust his judgment. So yeah, I'm very fortunate that way. But again, those are things that, but access is so important. So opening up, but people say like, oh, I can't make a difference. How do I be an ally? Like that, open up your network, connect people who can help. Because everybody can do something. It doesn't have to be massive.
You said so many golden gems.
I didn't even answer your question.
There's no formula here. We're just getting nuggets of wisdom for free. It's vibes, that's what we say. Like,
no, because you said something super cool in my head. Just you're like getting a coach. Like that was life changing. And I always laugh because people are like, if you're an athlete, you'll get a coach till you finish your career, right? But when you're in the career world or like corporate world, or you're like, oh no, I know everything and I'm done. You never get like a support till the end, but you took what was game changing?
But it doesn't stop with seniority, right? In fact, when you reach a certain level of leadership, it's not just about your functional technical capability. It's about how you, and that's when I say about my purpose, it's how people connect with you and how you get the best out of teams. And if you're not open to or self-aware enough to realize that you're going to need support with that and help with that, then you're not going to be the best leader you can be, I think. And yeah, I feel like I'm always really surprised by the amount of senior leaders who don't have coaches or have never had coaches, because I think certainly my experience is the more senior that I've got, the more help that I've needed with that. Because when you're junior, right, it's task based, right? You do, but as you grow as a leader, you're shaping strategy and you're shaping culture. So I needed that additional support.
Yeah, good. And I know we've talked a bit about we started on the roots that we have, and we are sipping into the routes that took you to where we are now. but trying to understand a little bit more about your roots. I don't know, do you follow sports? Anything that you do?
I am an adjacent Liverpool fan because my son supports LFC. So, because he follows Liverpool.
Oh, good. That's good. All Liverpool fans.
But I used to play soccer when I was younger, so
Good.
I will give you this.
Yeah.
So I was a big tomboy,
Yeah.
so I hung out with my brother. There's
Yeah.
only 15 months between my brother and I, so
Yeah.
he's like one of my best friends.
Yeah.
And I used to hang out with him and his friends quite a bit, and they were soccer mad. So then I was soccer mad, and I wrote to. So I supported Liverpool because
Yeah.
he supported Liverpool and
Yeah.
everything. My
And that's
brother
why you
did.
said,
I was like, and now no, but my son just has happened to follow Liverpool, so I'm delighted with
we
that.
don't believe
Yeah.
that. There's no way that
It
could
is
have
roots
happened.
and it's in his genes. But I as a young girl, I think I was about 13 or 14,
Yeah.
I wrote a letter to Liverpool Football Club. I hope Mummy has kept this or kept a copy of it. And I said that they weren't doing enough to support women's football. And I was sick of only seeing men's football on TV, and that they needed to do more. And they wrote back to me. And they sent me a kit. And I mean a whole kit with boots.
Wow.
Can you imagine how awesome I felt
Wow.
the next Saturday when I came out head to
In the
toe
Liverpool.
in the gear,
Yeah.
brand new gear, by the way, because we didn't often get new clothes,
Yeah.
and football boots. And I give that example because actually, even then at that age, I was speaking up
Yeah, you are.
for issues that were
Absolutely.
important to me. I was at my grammar school. There wasn't a girls' football team. I later started one.
Yeah.
But because I wanted to play football with the boys, I was part of the boys' team for like the first year. And my mum had to, I remember like one of the matches, she had to like sign an insurance disclaimer. Like if anything, it was very different back then. It was very, very different back then. You know, boys and girls do
Co-ed.
train and things together.
well, that's
Yeah, it was
lovely.
a very different.
Well, one thing for sure is you've definitely added more fans to our podcast, especially if they're Liverpool fans. Now, those who are not Liverpool fans, we've probably lost them already. Like,
Are we losing them?
already gone. But where I was going is trying to understand more a bit. This is a question we sometimes people get asked. Like, if for whatever reason, Jamaica, Northern Ireland, Liverpool, and England were playing in the same
What's
tournament,
problem?
whether it's for
You're not going to make me choose, are you? I'm an
Who do you
equal
support?
opportunist.
no,
No, it's actually really
Just lead
interesting.
through that,
No, it's actually really interesting because I'm Jamaican by birth,
yeah,
but my culture is Northern Ireland.
yeah,
Like, I know I present and look one way,
yeah,
but how I grew up was you're shaped by your experience,
Yeah.
right? And I didn't grow up with my dad's side of the family.
yeah,
And actually, when I moved to London, I was really excited about being welcomed by the Black community. And actually didn't necessarily just happen that way because I didn't have the cultural references or,
yeah.
I didn't cook big meals. And, we did, but it was spuds.
Different flavor there.
Yeah. And I think that's really important because you can present one way to the world, but actually internally, your sense of identity is very different. And what I find is that I had people imposing identities on me that didn't feel like they fit me. And it's something I'm very cognizant of as a mother to Kaelin. So I used to use words with him that he was like, he was half English, a quarter Jamaican, a quarter Irish. I'm like, that's so binary. So now I've tried to, and he's like, I know, Mummy, I'm not half anything. I'm part, I'm a blend. Actually, language is really important because I don't want him to feel like he's any more one than other. He's a beautiful, wonderful blend of lots of different things. And actually that shouldn't define him. And he should go into the world feeling like he can define his own identity and that it will evolve over time. So I don't know. I didn't answer your question.
You did not.
That's it. If anyone wants to give me 3 tickets to any of those matches, I will go.
No.
But I only do director's box tickets.
Oh my
wow. Like,
Thanks.
it's,
As you say in Northern Ireland, it was far from that. You were rare, Belinda.
yeah. Well, I think we'll try and get sponsors. Let's see where our sponsors land us and where we get to. And then another question I had for you is, it sounds like where you are now, it seems like, as you said, you're very clear about your purpose. You're very clear about where you want to go. You have a lot of clarity about the journey going forward. But looking back, maybe when you're in your 20s, when you were 13 and others, how did you define where you wanted to go? Because for a lot of people, it's about being opportunistic and you just go with the flow. For some people, they're very clear that I want to do the following, and the following, and you work towards that. But was it the same for you? Because it looks amazing where you've turned out.
Firstly, I would say I'm not entirely clear where I want to go, but what I am clear on is where I'm misaligned. When something doesn't align with me culturally or values, then that for me is more important than feeling alignment. And quite honestly, the second part of your question was, how did I know growing up? If I'm being honest, I just took society's definition of success and ran with it. Education, tertiary education, masters, get a big job in the big four. And also what shaped some of my ambition or my career was access to things. So I actually probably would have loved to study law, but that was a much longer course than finance and accountancy, and I couldn't afford it. I just could. I was like, I'm going to come out of uni with this level of debt already. I'm good with numbers. I can get in a qualification. And again, that goes back to some of this external validation thing, which I think when you're younger can be very important, and actually even now can be very important. So I guess I allowed other people's definitions of success to shape me. Not saying that's a bad thing, but I didn't know much differently. And the other thing is I was chasing security and stability. Like, and that is okay. Like I sometimes tell my mentees, it's all right to chase the money when you're younger. Chase the money, get security, get a good job, pay off your student loans, buy a house if that's what you want to do, and then give back. But I think there's a lot of pressure on young people to be the best professionally and also like giving back and mentoring and stuff. And I'm like, there's time for it. There's time, like what is it? Who said it? Earn, learn and return. Earn, learn and return.
Yeah.
I can't remember who said that.
Right, sounds
Denzel
amazing.
Washington?
We'll add it in the footnote.
Something like that, yeah. Earn, learn and return. So earn, then learn, and then give back when you're in a position to do so. Going back to what I'm doing right now, and the alignment, and we talked about it being misalignment being very expensive. All I know is that what I want to do professionally needs to be anchored in values, needs to be aligned to my purpose, and either the direct work or indirectly, I'm making some sort of impact in the community. So that's what I'm working on at the moment.
We'll come back to that because there's something you did, which I think our audiences need to understand. You are like finance, big four, big multinational FMCG like Diageo, CFO of Sephora, big, like huge. This is like the little Belinda would be like, whoa, could I ever achieve this? And then you achieved it. And then what was the moment that made you say, this is not for me, maybe I need to do something else?
As I say, misalignment for me just makes me feel so icky that then I'm open to different opportunities. But also, like, as I said, the death of my sister, like life is so precious. I want to feel like I'm, earning, but also learning and returning.
It's the time.
Yay!
We made it.
So sometimes you can earn a little bit less because you're learning more and you're returning more. And, those things ebb and flow. You got to find the balance that works for you.
And that would allow you to achieve your purpose of being the leader people choose to be with. Because you're so aligned to your purpose, your vision, your everything that people are like, yeah, that's authentic. That's fair.
And it's different. We talk about representation, I think, quite a lot, but I also think sometimes it's more optics and outcomes. And I've been in spaces that are diverse, rooms that are diverse, but actually the voices that are being heard are the same voices. So that is just tokenism with better photography, to be honest. Because it is. Because if you have a diverse boardroom, but the people from marginalized communities are not allowed to speak or not allowed to be heard, then it's pointless.
It's a truth bomb, yeah.
Yeah. So I think success will be when diverse perspectives are valued and not just tolerated. And I'm not sure that every organization is there yet. And in fact, recently, personally, I feel like we're going backwards in some places, and that's heavy.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is heavy. And that's why it's really important to surround yourself with your community, because times can get tough and you need to make sure that you've got the support network that you need.
Yeah.
And this is why it's so important to have this conversation, because if it's not said out loud, then it just gets pushed under the rug and nobody thinks there's a problem, right?
Yeah, and my experience is it's lonelier at the top. The higher you go, the more lonely it becomes, which is really weird because I was under the impression when I was younger that once I'd made it to a certain level, my credibility and my technical excellence would speak for itself. But actually, it can be lonelier because you're not as open to being vulnerable in the same way you were. You are more exposed. We talked about being hyper exposed. You don't necessarily have the same level of peer group that are at a similar level to you, or it can be harder to find. And then sometimes you just don't have time. They're out there. You don't have time to. Yeah, so it can be lonely. And again, going back to the importance of my support coach, even just having that check in with him is reaffirming and grounding for me.
And wanting to explore one thing, if you may allow me to, and it's around grief. And you talked about how your sister passing away has shaped you. And unfortunately, for a lot of us, we've gone through grief. We've gone through experiences. I mean, I lost my parents as well. But reflecting on my experience when my parents passed away very soon after each other was, I actually didn't, and it sounds like you came out of it in a different way, but for me, it was such a stab in my heart that I lived and that pain defined me. And I felt like I made choices then that I now regret up to this day.
Really?
About my life, about my relationships, about the work that I did. And I know there are people out there who are probably going through the same thing as well. And it sounds like you've used your grief to shape you or to shape your choices in ways that are positive. So how's that possible? How can someone do that?
I think I said I didn't allow grief to define me, but allowed it to refine me. So just reprioritizing, or actually prioritizing. I don't think sometimes you're so caught up in the humdrum of daily life that you don't sit down to think about what's important.
Yeah.
And I would also say that grief is not linear. You know, I am like I'm an operator. So when there's a problem, I want to solve it. So when she first passed, I just flew home, organized the funeral, what picture are we using, what music are we using. I was the rock for everyone else around me. And that was the right role for me to play, actually. But then what it did mean was that I didn't actually really start my own grieving process until a bit later. And then, and then I felt, is it even right to grieve at this point? Like, shouldn't I have? Why am I a year on? And I think that has also been something that has been humbling, I think, but also empowering as well, to know that grief isn't linear and allow yourself to feel the feels. Yeah, I don't know if that answers your question or not.
The whole point is not to answer the question.
You're giving up.
Like, that's the pattern we expected.
From me, yeah.
No, but you definitely have, and I think it hits the notes. And sounds like there is no formula. No. Just do what works for you. Appreciate that it's going to be a process. It's actually it's a process, right? And
it is a process, and actually, I live with no regrets. Yeah. I say, always regret the things that you did rather than the things that you didn't do. Just go for it. If it works out, brilliant. If it doesn't, you'll have learned something. And I think that, you know, everybody talks about a growth mindset, but actually that is helpful. It's part of building resilience. It's like, okay, that didn't work out, but I learned 3 very valuable lessons. Let's go. Let's move.
You naturally brought us to the real talk segment of our...
Yeah, indeed.
So now we're expecting bombs. there are so many things that are often left unsaid. We talked about it, right? When you come from a certain background, there's information you don't really know. You figure out 1 year later when it's too late. Oh, that's what it meant. Like, I mean, as an Ethiopian coming here and someone saying, oh yeah, that's not quite there yet. I didn't understand it. It meant, oh, that's rubbish. Just restart it. So are there things that you figured out that you think you'd have loved to tell younger Belinda so that the younger Belindas that are listening to us,
Yeah, I've
like,
got lots.
oh, please,
The
drop
first one is the expression, this is going to divide people.
I love that. Okay,
Just
let's
to
go.
tell you, Belinda,
Ready.
last time we talked about ketchup, beans. Till this day, in one of our episodes, that's the first thing. Divisive topics.
Okay.
People
Given us, yeah. These guys
So-
probably be more divisive than your choice of Liverpool.
I'm being judged.
Yeah.
I do not believe that you can bring your whole authentic self to work. I think that's a myth. I think it's a myth. And it's a myth for marginalized communities. Okay? Marginalized or underrepresented communities. Because, and there's a brilliant TED talk by Jodie Burry on this. So if you're listening, please go and listen to it. And because I'm going to borrow shamelessly from her, but she says, it is easy to be who you are when who you are is all around. Right? It is easy. But then she also goes on to say, you cannot compete in a costume contest and expect to win if you're not wearing a costume. And I do think that some of these companies that are saying, oh, you could bring your whole self to work are actually doing some communities a bit of a disservice. And one of the things, how I explain it to my mentees is I say, what you wear clubbing on a Friday night is not what you wear to church on a Sunday. But you're the same person. You're the same person, but that going back to that social camouflage again, right? Respect, understanding the environment that you're working in. And another example I gave to a mentee of mine, he said, "Oh, I keep getting this feedback that I'm not showing up correctly. What does that mean? What does that mean?" And we kind of unpicked it, and this is how minor it was, but actually made a big difference.
Yeah.
On Dress Down Fridays, he was dressing down, and I was like, "What is your boss wearing? Dress Down Fridays." Wears a suit. You wear a suit on a Friday. But it's dressed down. Don't care. Because you never beat the boss. You never beat the boss. But how would he have figured that out? You know? So that's a big, I think this whole claim of being able to bring your whole self to work favors the majority and not the minority. And rather than asking people to bring their true authentic selves to work, I think we should be building workspaces that mean you don't have to leave core parts of you behind.
core part is the key.
Core parts of you.
The everything, but like
Yeah.
the most important
Exactly.
part.
But we work in systems. We live and grow and work in systems. You know, you go to school and you wear a uniform, and you go to work and you wear a uniform of sorts. So I think that's the one. That's one. The second that I will drop is
We love
that
those.
I hate it when, and I've used it actually quite ironically, I've used the expression quite a lot during this conversation, but I think we need to flip the narrative on certain communities being underrepresented in corporate workspace and talk about certain communities being overrepresented, because if one is true, then the inverse is also true, right?
Yeah.
But imagine we were talking about communities being overrepresented. Actions would be very different, you know, because what you're talking, like social mobility, for example, is a zero-sum game. There are finite numbers of roles out there. And if you agree that some people should be in those roles, then you must also agree that the people in those roles, some of them shouldn't be in those roles. But that's the conversation that we're not willing to have right now. And actually, if I'm in that role, why would I give up my seat? Why would I give up my seat?
Comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
You love your money.
Exactly.
Power.
I'm gonna choose comfort over courage in this one. That's the other bomb that I would drop. I'm not gonna have any friends by the time.
You're on a roll. Like this is.
What is the other thing? I don't like the phrase "people of color," even though I've used it, because white is a color.
It's true.
And when you use that phrase, "people of color," I think what we're doing is grounding white as the default and everything else is othered. So when I'm trying to be especially provocative,
Yeah.
I will use marginally racialized groups because that's what we're talking about sometimes. And I do get that language has to be not generic, but you have to connect with people on a widespread basis, and you do have to use words and terminology that everybody understands. But I think language is so important, particularly in certain spaces, that being very intentional about what you're saying and what you mean is really interesting.
Oh my God. We went everywhere.
Wow. Good. And going back then to trying to close up and real talk, 2 questions for you, if I may. One is, will be interesting to hear what present you've got for your son for Christmas.
Okay. When is this going to be aired?
And
In January.
Okay,
So
good.
it's fine. He won't know.
no.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, make him not listen. And then secondly, I'm curious as well about what musical, if you had a soundtrack to define your life or where you are, like what songs or what music would you use for that? So,
Diggity, no doubt.
wow.
I like the way you work. Yeah.
Diggity.
No, diggity.
That's the first question that you've actually answered. Let's take a. How long have you taken out? Like
You should have.
the first question. That's the first question you've answered. Like, oh my God, it took this long.
But we went to the best place. I'm so glad you didn't answer.
Right. When we like that, yeah, go ahead. What?
No diggity, no doubt.
No diggity,
And
no doubt.
then, yes, Blackstreet.
Yeah.
Classic. If you want to get Belinda Brown on the dance floor, that's what you play.
Okay.
That's what you spin.
Okay,
Good.
And then first question, answer secondly. What have I got my son for Christmas? A table tennis.
Table tennis.
I am nuts. I have a small flat in southwest
Out the
London.
window. Are you ready?
I thought you were worried
I don't even know where it's going to go. When it arrived, I was like, oh, I'm not sure I measured this. So I must have been like confusing metric. I'm just like, that's big. Okay. But he's going to be very happy.
He's going to love it so much.
So the question I have in my head is, who is he going to play against, though?
Hello.
You're
She's
playing.
there.
Wow.
Sports person of
I
the
am
year.
so
I'm
competitive.
so worried about.
Listen, when Kaelin was born and
Yeah.
I realized that he was a boy, obviously.
Yeah.
There's checks they do.
Yeah.
I used to, when he was with his dad, I used to go and sit in the park and practice my keepy uppies because I was like, I'm not being that mom. I can't play football.
Wow.
Mama's going to score those goals.
I
Wow.
am still better than him.
Good.
So it won't be for long, but right now I can still beat him in a keepy uppy challenge. And I think that's really core to
Yeah.
who I am. Like
Yeah.
I'm so uber competitive,
Yeah. Well, yeah.
but also I won't ask him to do anything that I can't do. So yeah.
Table.
Tennis indeed. All right. We'll see.
So table tennis is what we
All right.
have. So we'll have to put it in the garden, I think.
Good. Right. Table tennis, you've answered. No diggity, no doubts. But
Questions
Blackstreet
answered.
answered straight away. Like,
Thank you
oh,
very
now you're in a roll. Hewan, what's music, soundtrack, anything new this time? We've explored this before,
I'm
but
going to be judged.
anything
again.
inspired by Belinda.
So don't judge, huh?
Uh,
But I've been into a little bit of like K-pop Demon Hunter.
Love Golden.
Golden!
I have no idea. I'm so unhooked.
Oh, it's killing it with the Gen Alpha, I guess. Like
Too
it's
old.
it's like my Spotify rap. I'm 21 years old apparently. So yeah, Golden.
Right.
Yeah,
I haven't.
Golden-
I'm scared because I'll
Okay,
probably show up as
I'm gonna
75.
I'm gonna send you the link.
Okay.
It's very catchy.
My son will probably love
Yeah.
it.
He-
but
He does. And actually, so my daughter's 9
Mm.
and all of them
are
are into
K-pop.
K-pop. So
Is it-
coming your way.
'Cause
So
sadly, my son takes his music taste from his father. She listens to like Coldplay and what's the other one? Tom Grennan. I'm like, what is this maudlin music going on? Like, yo, some hip hop and R&B, please.
No, dig it. And then
The other one, I was just thinking the other song that I would choose is 99 Problems.
99 Problems. Oh, yeah. Oh,
But the
yeah,
excellent one.
yeah. Going for a Jay-Z. I love Jay-Z. Jay-Z is
That was your choice last
legend.
time, right?
Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah.
I had a Jay-Z. I had a Jay-Z last time. Yeah.
Yeah.
99 problems.
Good vibes. Now I
Yes.
understand.
I've got 99 problems, but a podcast ain't one.
This is gonna go in the promo now.
Said it right here.
Okay, today, what's your
What's my
soundtrack?
my soundtrack? So it's inspired by a couple of things. So and these are inspired by Belinda sort of kind of vibe. So one, I saw the Jamaican roots is, then secondly, in whatever, and it's come a lot in my conversations the last few weeks, months, about this idea of independence from an African country perspective. So I'm from Uganda and grew up in Kenya, about what independence means. Also, not only independence from a country perspective, but independence from a mindset perspective, about being independent and thinking about yourself and how you can self-improvement, that idea of hope and all that. And for me, a song that I was listening to that I really enjoy is anything by Bob Marley. He's been really big, and just love Bob Marley, because I remember growing up and you'd hear No Woman, No Cry. You'd hear the survival song. You'd hear, he even had a song called Zimbabwe. He had a song called songs called Africa Unite. And so I think that Bob Marley vibe, like that, this free spirit of not only just his mindset, but also the carefree dancing. Like, he was not a dancer anyway, but he could just jive and rock and enjoy. For me, that is my soundtrack that I've been listening to and enjoying the last few weeks.
So with that, I'm gonna say, don't you worry. But
Everything's gonna.
Thank you to Belinda.
Yeah.
This was like you were saying. What are we gonna talk about? It's been an hour.
It's been an
already.
hour.
Yeah.
Can you imagine
Yeah.
that? Oh my God, yeah. This has been fabulous.
Yeah.
We are so grateful for your time, for your honesty. The bombs have been dropped.
Yeah,
Whoever
indeed.
is listening, please pick them up.
Yeah.
So we're grateful for you, for your
Good.
time, and the
Yeah.
world needed to hear your story.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Belinda.
And thanks for I mean, it's such an honor to have you here. And as I said, we've been looking forward to this conversation for quite a long time, and it's glad that it's happened. And for me, I'm also glad that for every podcast, I try to put on a different hat. And so proud. Yeah, so that's all I get ready for. Like, when I'm getting ready for this, like, Hewan does she does like all the research, and like she's prepared, and like she has her iPad right, like ready. I'm like, I didn't come with anything. I was like, I'm just going to go with vibes. But for me, it's the
Vibes
hat.
on vibes.
That's the one contribution I make to this. So this is my new one that I have for this, and let's keep it going.
A big investment.
Yeah.
Be careful.
But it's also like a way of saying thank you for the many hats that you put on,
Oh,
and that you put on so skillfully, and you put on so gracefully. The hearts that of mentoring others, the heart of being a parent, a mother, the heart that you have of being a corporate individual, and you put on those hats in such a way that is inspiring, and it's a gift to our listeners. It's a gift to everyone. So
thank you.
thank you for that.
You've listened to Roots, Routes, and Real Talk.